For the last 2 and a bit years, I've been traveling every chance I get. That doesn't sound very impressive, but given that my previous record was 3 countries in 20 something years, including my own, I'm a bit proud of myself. In all this time, I've compiled a list of things I need to do on my phone and on my computer, and I'm now sharing that list with you. All I ask in return is a like if you like it, dislike if you don't, and a subscription if you're that kind of weird. Or a comment if you have anything more to say. I should be clear from the beginning that these are things that I do, not always things that you should do, unless you think these are good tips. I can group my travel destinations in two big categories. One, places where I go on a fixed schedule, that it means that I'm going to an event like a tennis match or a motor race or anything like that. And places I discover when I'm planning my next trip. To find places in the second group, I use mostly the maps from TripAdvisor and Google. For instance, on my last trip, I knew I was going to Cluj, a city in Transylvania. Looking at the map, I noticed a city called Turda, where I knew there is a famous salt mine, now turned into an amusement park. Then, looking at the map of Turda, I noticed there is also an old military base from Roman times, the Potaissa Castle. I knew there wasn't much to it, just the base of some walls, but that's the kind of thing I enjoy anyway. So I had to go to Turda. Once I decide when and where I want to go, I need to know how I will get there. In Europe, there are buses from anywhere to everywhere, but I wouldn't recommend taking 30 or 40-hour trips from one side of the continent to the other. By train, it can be slightly better, but it's still bad, especially in Eastern Europe, where there are no fast trains. As a personal rule, if there is a plane connecting the city I'm in to the city I want to visit, I take that plane, no matter how close it is. I use the Skyscanner to find what flights are available. Sometimes I may also check prices on kayak. You may hear about an alternative called Momondo, but that's kayak with a different skin. For closer trips, things get a little more interesting. I use Rome to Rio when I don't know what I should take. It is also useful if my trip includes multiple cities. I prefer using trains because they are more reliable, they run on a fixed schedule, and that schedule is well known in advance. But if the train is not an option or a bus would be better, I will take the bus. Buying plane tickets starts on a Skyscanner or wherever I found a good deal. I may look at prices for a while before I commit to buying them, a week at least, but the more time the better. That's because plane tickets prices change from one day to the next, sometimes from 1 hour to the next. Sometimes they just change because you look at them, like Schrodinger's prices. Companies may change prices if they notice that you search for that route before. I use a VPN and a private window in my browser to check prices before I buy them. And since none of them give me any money, I will not recommend any provider. Train and bus tickets don't change their price as drastically, but still, if possible, and if I have a fixed travel plan, I do try to buy train and bus tickets ahead, but that's not always an option, especially for buses. After I figure out how to get where I want to go, it's finally time to figure out where I'm sleeping. Hostels are the cheapest option, but I'm too old and antisocial to enjoy them. I prefer hotels and apartments, mostly because I can walk around naked without causing trauma to my roommates. I mostly book hotels because people usually speak English at the reception, but I like booking apartments in Romanian or English-speaking countries. In fact, it's nicer to have my own kitchen because I don't like restaurants. I prefer to eat in my room. The first place I look for accommodation is Booking.com. Other platforms annoy me because they show the price per night rather than the entire stay, and I'm too lazy to do the math. Also, because I booked so many trips on this platform, I get discounts on some hotels. It's a good idea to check the price on the hotel's website if they have a website, but honestly I always forget to do that. I also check Airbnb, but so far I only booked with it once. If there is one map that is crucially important for a traveler in this digital age, that is the Maps app. After checking many of them, I can reluctantly say that Google makes the best one. It simply has everything. Public transport. So far I have never used the taxi service abroad. I may have used some ride-sharing services like Uber. It has major and minor attractions, so I get an idea of what there is to see. You can use AR to eliminate some of the guesswork when trying to find a hotel or someplace you want to go. You can even download maps for offline use, so you don't have to use the data plan for it. And you can sync between devices. What I do is I mark places of interest on my desktop or laptop, and those become available on my phone. Those places of interest may be things that I want to see, but also the location of the hotel, of the airport or train or bus station. I check out what's the best way to get there from the hotel. I also look for supermarkets in the area. And if I'm staying for longer and I didn't book an apartment with a laundry machine, I may also check if there is a laundromat nearby. Google as a company is too big and evil at this point, but they have some useful services. Talking about Google, they also make an app that I use when traveling abroad sometimes, Google Translate. English is spoken everywhere, so I end up not using it as much, but it's always nice to have a backup. Before I leave, I download the language pack again to not use internet data abroad. I also download audio guides, mostly on Easy Travel, which is an app that saved me a lot of money in guided tours. Guided tours are still nice if you want to ask side questions or if you want to meet other tourists, but Easy Travel is a nice free alternative. I like to travel to Romania and Moldova, also to English-speaking countries, but they are now harder to reach, especially after Brexit, so I may not need Google Translate when traveling. Also, Easy Travel may not have a good audio guide, if any, and I end up not using it sometimes. But if there is one app that I use every single vacation, regardless of where I am going, that is Netflix. The fact that it has a Windows app that supports offline downloads saved me a lot of space on my backpack. Now I only carry a little 2-in-1 laptop after many trips where I was carrying a bulky laptop and a tablet. One thing you need to consider is that you shouldn't use the Netflix app abroad if you are connected to the internet and had any downloads. Those downloads can become unavailable until you get home. Netflix is in full crusade against VPNs, so you cannot even use those. With so many things I download for offline use, you would think I don't need an internet connection when traveling, but you would be wrong. I always have a strategy when it comes to data. When traveling inside the European Union, I can use my data plan from home, at least part of it, since Romanian data is so cheap, but it's enough most of the time. There are some countries outside the EU in the European Economic Area where European roaming also works, but it doesn't work in Switzerland. It's confusing. So when I go to a country, I'm not sure if it's in the EU, EEA or whatever, I check my carrier's website for prices. If I see anything like €3 for a megabyte, I'm going to buy a SIM card locally. Before the trip, I make sure I know which carriers are available and get some idea of their prices and coverage. That's how I digitally prepare for a vacation. Hope it was useful for someone. If I skipped over some parts you want to hear more about, tell me in a comment. Also tell me if you want me to cover other subjects related to traveling and technology. All I ask in return is a like, a subscription, maybe if you want to share it, it's totally up to you, only if you want. Also, if you are a Romanian, I have a Romanian travel channel that I recently created. I am releasing a similar video there, basically at the same time. Even if you're not, you may like those videos, since I usually publish English subtitles and I don't talk that much anyway. A subscription there would be very much appreciated. Thank you. Bye bye.